Evergreen High School, a school like many others throughout this country, where students were going to learn, teachers were going to teach, and the custodial staff were doing what they could to keep the building in tip-top shape. And all anybody wanted to do was just go to school and then get home safe. But of course, because this is a day that ends in Y, a day in America that is unfortunately like any other day, these people were bombarded by this absolute terror, this fucking goddamn brainless maniac that decided, I'm just gonna go goddamn stupid and I'm just gonna try to shoot up the school and everything because I want to be a ballless little spineless bitch. Well, guess what? The shooter's fucking dead. Unfortunately, there are a couple students that are in critical condition, and that's absolutely fucking horrifying, but, you could just copy and paste any school, any setting. I mean, you had the one that happened in Minnesota at a religious school just a couple weeks ago. Parkland. You had Columbine. You had Sandy Hook. So many schools, so many settings, so many children, so many lives snuffed out, affected, traumatized because of goddamn moronic, brainless, spineless, gutless fucks that think it's the right thing to do this shit, to commit this atrocity, this level of violence, because they have no goddamn soul, no goddamn spine. Spare me the fucking political stuff. Spare me the goddamn stuff of what it could be. The fact is, it's fucking evil. It is evil. It is evil that has needed to be stamped out for a while. But no, unfortunately, we have a bunch of people in power that are like, oh, thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers. That's why you gotta fucking say your thoughts and prayers. Okay? Actual change needs to happen. Gun control, other things need to occur. Things that keep people safe. Laws that could be implemented. Oh, you think it's mental health? Fine, pour more money into mental health programs. And let's make sure that people are kept safe. Children should be able to go to school. Teachers should be able to teach at any school. Custodial staff should be able to do whatever. People should be able to go to malls. They should be able to go to theaters. They should be able to go to stores, whatever. They should be able to walk the streets without worrying about being shot down by some goddamn freaking nut job. Some people that are pure, unadulterated evil. However it is molded, however it is shaped, this evil needs to be stamped out. And it's absolutely infuriating that this keeps happening, but thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers. And I don't care if you're a conservative, an ultra-MAGA, an ultra-liberal, a libertarian. I don't care if you're part of the Green Party. I don't care if you believe that lizard people are controlling us from the goddamn moon. I don't fucking care. This is not a political thing. This is about keeping society safe. If you are not about keeping society safe, you are part of the goddamn problem. You are absolutely 1,000% part of the problem. And I will say this, and then I'm going to move on to something else. If the parents of the shooter knew, you need to arrest them too. We need to hold people goddamn accountable. This is ridiculous. It could have been so much goddamn worse, but sometimes the mental trauma is worse than the physical trauma. I know people that have been involved in school shootings. I know people that have. People that have absolutely been just traumatized by all this stuff, and nobody should have to fucking go through that. Every student should be able to feel safe. Everybody should be able to feel safe no matter where they go. Yes, there is violence, there is evil in the world. That is always going to be the case. That has been the case going back decades and decades and centuries. But the fact is, there are ways to prevent this. There are ways to curtail this. There are ways to do it, but no, you guys don't actually care about that. Those that do, thank you very much for continuing to, fight the good fight. For those that agree with, just thoughts and prayers being enough, it's never been enough, and it's just a goddamn smokescreen. It is a flimsy smokescreen to hide the fact that you guys don't care about the children. You're not the party of caring about children. Nobody apparently cares enough about children, at least as far as whatever side you're on, to come together and take care of the children, the future. This is not a bit. This is fucking ridiculous. This absolutely needs to stop right fucking now. By the way, noted big-faced, big-gummed, bigoted idiot, hateful moron Charlie Kirk got shot in the neck in Utah. And yeah, it was glorious. I got no problem saying that. I don't care about political stuff here. I don't care about that. The guy could have been on whatever side. He was a goddamn just hateful, bigot, a racist. The stuff he said about George Floyd. Google what Charlie Kirk said about so many trans people, gay people, LGBTQ, minorities. It doesn't matter. He was a bigot. He deserved what he got. And I hope whatever pain he felt was just so searing. But even though it's just going to be a mere fraction of what his words, his actions, and his hate caused for so many people that just want to live their goddamn lives. Now, for his children, I hope his children can find a way to compartmentalize, grow from this, and become bigger and better people when they grow up than Charlie ever was. That's my hope. Because his children didn't deserve that. The wife, however, I hope it eats at the wife, and I hope that, quite frankly, she never knows a day of peace. Because if you're going to marry somebody like Charlie Kirk, then you deserve whatever pain you get. So if you have a problem with me knocking Charlie Kirk, and maybe not celebrating, but not being sad about the fact that he died, I don't fucking care. There's the fucking door. You can get the fuck off this channel. You can go to Fox News. You can go to whatever goddamn crackpot site you want to go to, whatever crackpot channel you want to go to. It is not about different beliefs. Like Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee talking about, oh, he had the courage to, say something different. Pat McAfee, noted idiot for having Aaron Rodgers on his goddamn show, and other people that knocked that Algerian boxer that actually there was no trans discussion or whatever and everything, but he stoked the fires of flames and the fires of hate and all that, and the flames of hate and whatever term I'm trying to say. The bad part of all this is Pat McAfee actually could be something for positive change, but no, he doesn't want to be, because he's getting a shit pot full of money to spout his nonsense. He is not a good commentator on WWE anymore. Thankfully, I won't have to worry so much about that. But Pat McAfee is a prime example of somebody who tells you how he thinks. He tells you what he is. He tells you exactly how he feels. And some people will lap that shit up. And if you have any problem with what I'm saying about Pat McAfee, about Charlie Kirk suffering, even though it was brief, I'm glad he suffered. He only suffered a little bit compared to the suffering that he caused so many other people. But I offer no sympathies for Charlie Kirk. I offer no sympathies for anybody that thinks like Charlie Kirk. And if you happen to sympathize or agree with anything that Charlie Kirk says, I got no sympathy for you. So there's the fucking door, and that's all I gotta goddamn say. By the way, let's release the Epstein files while we're at it. Oh, we're not going to release those, they say, because there's so many goddamn people that are on there that we don't want them exposed. By the way, I don't give a fuck how many liberals, how many of my favorite actors, musicians, celebrities, whatever are on there. You expose everybody in the goddamn thing. You want to clean that up? You want to drain the swamp? Let's fucking do that. Let's make sure that we actually do something proper. That we make sure that this world's cleared up. But you don't care about that, do you guys? You don't. And I'm speaking to the royal you. You know he's on it. You absolutely know he's on it. And if you try to defend him, you are the biggest piece of shit besides him. And Epstein, I mean, that guy was a goddamn cancer on society. He just fucking was. But guess who's also a cancer? Everybody on that list. Especially the guy that some of you dumb fucks voted in the goddamn White House. And if you got such a fucking problem with what I'm saying, I don't care. Because I'm going to say what the fuck I want. Because I'm just riding this wave until I get tired of doing these videos. That's it. Release the Epstein files is all I got to say. Oh, and by the way, let's maybe free Palestinian people while we're at it. And maybe let's stop watching Israel do what they're doing. It ain't Hamas. They're just being evil. Now, I'm John Renton with my review of AEW Dynamite. Yeah, I said I wasn't going to review Dynamite. But then I decided to just pour my goddamn heart out for the first 9 minutes of this video on something completely unrelated. I probably could have just done a Dynamite review and just fucking made that its own video. But you know what? Now if I sandwich them together or slew them together or whatever the hell I'm trying to say, then good. I can just do that and I can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Okay. So Danielson is part of the commentary team. Shivani's off. They need to get rid of Excalibur. I'm sorry, Excalibur cannot do this. He stumbles over his words. He cannot do this anymore. Hangman gets a big pop. He faced off against Josh Alexander with Rocky Romero, Lance Archer, and Don Callis. I'm going to say right now, there are parts of the show I actually didn't mind, but the stuff with the Callis family, it's a ragtag group of people with like 2 breakout stars. I love Lance Archer. Lance Archer hasn't been utilized well. Kyle Fletcher, Takeshita. That's it. Those are the only people out of that group that could be any breakout stars. Rick Knox is the worst referee going today. He is the absolute drizzling shits, and he deserves to be told that. Like, crowds need to actually start shouting that at him. I don't know if he's a bad person, but he's only there because of the Bucks, and the Bucks, they need to, they'll never understand, that their star power has dwindled significantly, and they basically are just a black hole of charisma and a black hole for the ratings. But their friends should not be there anymore getting all these healthy checks when there are other people that could be utilized. They have too many people that don't contribute shit. I'm not wanting people to lose their jobs or their income, but come on. So Hangman sort of got brain-busted on the apron, except it looked really awkward. It was like just, Alexander just sat him there. Alexander racked himself trying to do, I think, a jump through the ropes. He's the flaccid weapon right now. And there were Germans, multiple Germans later, by a Canadian wrestler who is also a family man. Good thing no diving headbutts are involved and no dogs are in the enclosed pool area. And then they go to the floor where it looks like a German's going to be on the floor, and then Josh lands neck first off a barricade bump. And then there's a senton roll off the top, there's an ankle lock, there's a deadeye on the apron. Archer and Rocky try to interfere, where Archer just kind of stands around and Rocky sort of falls down. And then we get a buckshot, 1, 2, 3. Hangman then, he vows basically to defend the AEW championship and clean things up, sort of. So Don Callis, by the way, took his guys, he went backstage and then came back out with Kyle. Why didn't he just stand there and wait? Because, by the way, this took about the first 30 minutes of the show. And this wasn't awful. Kyle, by the way, looked like Ian Riccaboni if he was a little bit taller and on a lot of gas. There was where's your socks chance. And Hangman puts him over and says, you are really good. You are very talented. Only 26 years old. You are very gifted, but you're not ready yet. And if you want to face me, you need to do it on your own. You need to take it, after all, Protostar. Yeah, it took 30 minutes basically for this to happen. Oh, and by the way, the Callis family must stay behind. So I think there's going to be another member of the Callis family that's going to join. But they're not going to end up being able to help Kyle fully, but they're going to try. Okay, so last week, or last collision, Mark Briscoe lost to Takeshita when MJF, fresh off his wedding, by the way, and congratulations to him and Alicia Toot. God damn it. Why didn't you call her a tout? I'm sorry, but a toot. A toot. Briscoe basically can name the stipulation. MJF then had backstage comments and basically says, I'm going to say the same thing I said on my wedding night. I do. By God, I do. Doesn't matter what your stipulation is. A friend of mine has said that it will probably be an Inferno match of some variety, which will be a way to write off MJF. But they're going to have to do the contract thing too. So I think they're going to make this a multi-pay-per-view program because Wrestle Dream, I think, is on, it's the second or third week of October. So it is what it is. The contract thing needs to be like an Inferno match, or if I win, I get to burn up the contract. I guess. Or what, I don't know. So the Bucks try to find a spot in catering, and the Bucks can't do comedy, just like they can't wrestle. And yes, I have praised a couple Bucks matches recently. That doesn't mean that they're any fucking good. It just means I got into the match itself. That doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to change my opinion. There are times you can get lost in a moment, but the Bucks are slower, they're balder, and they cannot do half the shit that they used to do pretty well. Which wasn't all that much to begin with, but at least it looked a lot prettier. Can't say the same thing for the next match. It's Mercedes and Emi Sakura, who looks like Robert Zadar if Robert Zadar was dressed up like a parade float. And they took on Alex Windsor and Riho. Okay, they were cheering Riho. I hope everybody's AC unit in that particular area, I hope they died and they had to get them replaced. I hope your favorite sports team does not win a goddamn championship. I regret cheering for the Eagles because I heard them cheer Riho. I do not care that Riho is well liked. She can be well liked. She can cure diseases for all I care. She is not a professional wrestler. She is an embarrassment. She's a little mousy, derpy looking. She just looks like she just has this permanent face of just nothing. She has no expression on her face. And whether she's a nice person or not, she's not a professional wrestler. And it is embarrassing to watch. A double single Boston Crab won this. Emi Sakura tapped out. How Riho was able to do that when she's barely bigger than a garden hose around, I don't know. And Alex Windsor had Mercedes tied up in the ropes. And Alex is not ready for this, and this stuff with Mercedes needs to end. But if they give the TBS title to Riho, my fucking goodness, they might as well just close up shop. You might as well throw that title in the trash if you're going to give it to Riho. Because Riho was the women's champion, almost 6 years ago. The first Dynamite, the first or second Dynamite, I actually don't remember which episode happened on because it's been a while. If Nyla Rose had been the first champion, great. It's not a Gail Kim Awesome Kong situation. It was embarrassing and ruined Nyla Rose. So, it was a great follow on Twitter, by the way. Renee is with the Rico Gates. Hey, you leave your guys in the back, I'll leave my guys in the back. And then Renee narrates a package on FTR about all their facts. And then FTR get out there. And there's some guy, I don't remember who this guy exactly was. Something the heel on Twitter. And I only saw this because people pointed out to me. This guy doesn't look like he could win a fight against anybody. I think there were kids in the audience that could have beaten his ass. And he's all trying to act like a heel. He calls himself something the heel on Twitter. Wrestling fans, we are not heels. We are not wrestling characters. We are fans. We can talk about wrestling. We can get fired up about wrestling like I do. There's nothing wrong with that. We are not in wrestling. If there are wrestlers that want to welcome us backstage to indie shows, great, cool. We're still not part of the fucking business. Wrestling media. There are cool people in the wrestling media I know. Graham GSM Matthews is one of them. He's an awesome guy that actually has a level head on his shoulders. Shout out to Graham. I doubt Graham is watching this. He's busy with other shit. He's one of the few good... Actually, there are other good ones. There's Denise. I don't remember her. Denise S. from Fightful. There's Auntie Collins, who I've talked to. They do their own podcasts and their own stuff and everything, and they talk to people in the wrestling media. They're awesome to talk to as well. And there are people I have plenty of disagreements. The three people that I mentioned, I've had disagreements with Graham, but I've never had any. The whole point is that the wrestling media, by and large, actually has good people in it, but then they also act like they're part of the business, or like they can go after people that criticize their work when they have reasonable stuff for, critiquing. Like, I don't know, that some factoids get wrong. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you could also maybe understand peaceful criticism is not the same as attacking. And then you won't get in a pissing contest with a fucking elephant, and I won't have to slap you down easily. I'm just a person. I'm just a fan. I'm not somebody with sources, but I'm also somebody that's fucking passionate. The whole point is whoever this guy is, this guy would have gotten beaten up by the fucking rats outside the goddamn 2300 arena. And he's all trying to act like, he pissed off Dax. Dax would fucking kill you in a heartbeat. And I'm not even as big of an FTR fan as I once was. I follow them on Twitter, and they have some good tweets, and they've had some pretty good matches. But yeah, then Stokely cuts a promo, and essentially, they beat up a cameraman. That's actually a jobber. I don't know who the jobber is. I don't care. So Shelton took on Ricochet. It's bald forever chance. And also Shelton, being 50 or close to it, still moves incredibly well. Ricochet hits some good stuff, but he's still bald, and that will never change. And then the Gates of Agony show up later. This wasn't a bad match. I just have a hard time getting invested in Ricochet because he picks fights with people on Twitter that he can't win because he is not a cunning linguist or particularly smart. But that being said, Ricochet ends up getting the victory after, I believe, Toa Leona hits Sheldon with a headbutt when the referee's distracted. And then the Syndicate come down and we get a bit of a pull apart. And they tried to make this whole thing of Lashley and Toa Leona facing off. And I got nothing against Toa Leona as a person, and I don't think he's bad in a tag team, but he would get eaten alive by Lashley within like 3 to 5 minutes. So then Hook is supposed to be on some roof, but it's obviously like something. It almost looks like something from The Room. And he's like, maybe I need to do stuff on my own, or maybe not. Is he going to get a group? Do I care? Hook is in the same place he was 5 years ago. 4 years ago, actually, now that I think about it. Because I don't think he made his debut until after they had crowds back. But, so Callis basically says, yeah, Kyle doesn't have to be he doesn't have to have anybody with him. He can do it on his own. So, Tony Storm comes out kind of channeling the Sandman, if the Sandman was dressed like a janitor. And Tony brought the sign and everything and had the kendo stick. Sky had a kendo stick. And they had a Philly street fight. Tony Storm, Timeless Tony Storm, and Sky Blue. At first, I didn't mind this. Want to guess where they lost me? I'll tell you. So, they hit some kendo stick shots. I didn't have a problem with it, but I knew it was going to turn stupid. I was alerted by a friend of mine in Texas that told me about some of the stuff that I probably wasn't going to like. And there was a stapler in the ass. Why? A stapler on the tits and yes, in Tony's Timeless box. Why? Like, why? The staple gun's always been stupid anyway. Just why? And then later, there was a table that was brought out, said, I smell a rat, and then there was cheese slices. And then Excalibur ate some of the cheese, because we can't take this seriously. We need to do this shit. And then there's the table of mousetraps. Why? Just why? What is next? Are you going to put the mousetraps on a table over a vat of water that has piranhas in it? I mean, where does it end? I do not care what company it is. You don't need to do this shit. And also I don't care if the ECW arena has some iconic, feel to it for some people. It is a freaking little broom closet that had a niche product that people got used to and people liked that morphed into something that could not be a national promotion. Look at ECW after Barely Legal. Look at by the time we get to about the summer of 98. It is drastically different by the time they got on TNN, which became Spike TV and all that, and MXC. Nevertheless, whole thing is you don't need to keep revisiting this stuff, and this doesn't do any good for Tony, who's pretty much one of the only stars they have. Sky Blue is who she is. She's not bad, but she's not great. We then got, more. We got an electric fly swatter, the racket thing that they have. Why? We got a DDT on a chair before that for 2. We got a powerbomb on a trash can. And by the way, Tony got powerbombed through the mousetrap table earlier. And then a Storm Zero on the chairs, 1, 2, 3. And then Julia and Tekla attack. And Statlander and Hayter run out separately. Both in shorts. Good God, y'all. Please and thank you. Good Lord. With respect, those are 2 strong, talented, and beautiful women. So Hayter accidentally hits Stat. They're just going to try to push this thing where Statlander is going to join the Death Riders, and it's not going to work. It's going to just shit on everything. And then Tekla does the, she spears Tony and then does the spider pose over Tony. And I want to know where I can get a woman to do that. Nah, I'm kidding. Actually, I don't want anybody. But that's it for that. So the aftermath I didn't mind, but a few things in the match I didn't mind. But I don't care if the men do it, the women do it. I'm done with that shit. And then Willow and Renee are in a laundry room, seemingly. Willow wants to fight Marina. Harley tries to calm her down by saying, "Hey, don't be upset at Statlander. Join us and I'll put a cat on your face." I don't think she meant the paint. I'm not opposed, but I don't think she meant the paint. They sing "Cat on Your Face," and, I saw that in Blue is the Warmest Color. So anyway, an AEW Unified 3-Way tournament final thing is taking place at All Out. It is Okada and Michael Okuda, as it were, Okuda Matata, and it's Takeshita and I don't remember who the hell else. Somebody he's going to beat. And then the Meat Mortos, the Beast of Monet, against Mascara Dorada, or whatever. It's probably going to be Meat Mortos, Takeshita, and Okada, and watch it be that Takeshita pins Meat Mortos to win the title, rendering this whole thing pointless. Or Okada pins Meat, and then they build to a one-on-one match where hopefully Takeshita wins, and then maybe we send Okada away so he can actually develop a drive to do something. The old Dynamite theme is for the Bucks. There's the sack of money on the goddamn table. That's very dangerous to have right out there, especially in Philly. The Death Riders entrance from the outside. Besides Bryan Danielson knocking Yuta on commentary, which Yuta was not knocked around nearly enough in his goddamn match, is Bro Dito and the OPPs, yeah, you know me, against the Death Riders and the Bucks. Anytime Yuta breathes in a wrestling ring, it's embarrassing. I'm not even going to get mad at this point, because I got mad earlier about something that was completely unrelated to wrestling, in case you skipped to this point. But no, I do not want to see Wheeler Yuta on my television pretending to be a wrestler. He is a fake. He is a fake wrestler. I hate saying that, but if he was down in the mid-card at best, then I wouldn't mind it. They're putting him in main events, and I don't care that he is just part of multi-man matches. He does not deserve. He is not worthy of this. And Marina Shafir, Willow needs to beat her flat, and then Marina needs to go to the Indies and just not appear on this television program anymore. They need to disband the Death Riders. The Bucks, by the way, got a roll-up victory over Bandito with the ropes. That's your Ring of Honor World Champion, by the way. And then Darby shows up after everybody fights off. They just fight off. The Bucks have the money, and everybody just fights off. Well, them and Brodito fight off. Watch the Bucks force a face turn to try and beat Brodito. It'd be terrible. Darby attacks Mox, and then suddenly somebody in a hoodie shows up, and it's Daniel Garcia. Speaking of people they need to give up on. I don't care if Garcia's a nice guy. I don't care if he recovered from a car accident where he wasn't sure he could walk again. While that is admirable, that does not mean that he is a wrestler that is worth investing in. They are forcing this. This is worse than Eric Watts when Bill Watts did that shit. This is worse than that. So I have gone long on this whole damn thing, but they will not give up on the Death Riders. And pretty soon, one way or another, either they're going to give up on the Death Riders or I'm going to give up on watching AEW weekly. And if that means I got to give up on the pay-per-views, I may give up on the pay-per-views. It's not long-term booking, it's stupid booking. And I bet Darby loses the coffin match at All Out. I bet you it happens. It would be stupid. It'd be really fucking stupid. But I'll do that when I do my predictions next week. I might review it next week because it's going to be in Canada, and that ought to be interesting. But in all honesty, it's getting to a tipping point here. I like reviewing AEW. Besides one or two Dynamites, I've reviewed every single one. I used to review Dark and Dark Elevation and Rampage, and then I got to where I didn't review Rampage anymore, and then I got to where I stopped reviewing Collision. I have bought every single pay-per-view. I have scraped together money when, times were lean and everything to make sure I had enough money for that. Even though all my bills were paid and the producer was fed and all that stuff. Times are lean. People suffer, that stuff. And people suffer a lot worse than me. whole point is I'm going to start putting my money elsewhere unless they give me reasons to continue to invest in the AEW pay-per-views. They have till, at the latest, the end of this year. And then we'll see. And the Death Rider stuff, they need to disband the Don Callis family. They need to clean up shit. And they need to get a bunch of people off of television. Like, it needs a complete fucking hard reset. So that being said, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Rentland, and until we meet again, happy trails to you.